You have been deceived by the cruelest lie ever told, and the most devastating part is that those who taught it to you believed it themselves. Every teacher who promised that good grades lead to success, every parent who swore that hard work pays off, every motivational speaker screaming about grinding until you collapse, they were not your enemies. They were simply prisoners who had mistaken their cell for the entire world. Here is the brutal truth that will either liberate you or disturb you beyond measure. The hardest working people on earth are almost universally the poorest. If effort truly created wealth, then construction workers would be billionaires and farmers would rule the world. This video will solve one fundamental problem that keeps millions of intelligent, capable people permanently trapped. Why does hard work make you tired but never rich? And what must you actually pursue to escape this designed prison? I am Niccolò Machiavelli. 5 centuries ago, I sat across, negotiating tables from popes and warlords, studying the raw mechanics of power in its most honest form. I was exiled, tortured, and dismissed by comfortable men who preferred flattering lies over dangerous truths. In that exile, I wrote words that would terrify princes and liberate the wise for generations to come. Today, I return not to comfort you with another hollow promise wrapped in inspirational language, but to do what I have always done, tell you the truth about how the world actually works, not how your school books wished it worked. The problem we face is this: you live in a world where the myth of hard work has become a religion, preached from every pulpit of authority. Yet this myth serves not you, but those who profit from your belief in it. You have been taught to worship your own exploitation, to take pride in your exhaustion, and to blame yourself for a system designed to keep you exactly where you are. In this discourse, we will dissect the architecture of this deception, reveal the true mathematics of wealth creation, and provide you with the strategic framework to think not like a laborer, but like a prince. Listen to the thunderous applause when a man breaks his back for wages. They call him honorable, noble, the salt of the earth. But observe closely who leads this applause: comfortable men in clean clothes who have never calloused their hands. You witness the greatest deception in human history, the transformation of exploitation into virtue. You have been sold a story since childhood that labor itself is sacred, that exhaustion equals honor, that the universe maintains a ledger trading your sweat for eventual gold. This is not divine law. This is manufactured belief, a psychological cage designed by princes who understand that whips are crude and costly. Why use force when you can plant conviction? Consider the mathematical impossibility of this myth. If hard work created wealth, our world would be inverted. The coal miners, floor scrubbers, and brick carriers would rule as emperors. Instead, they remain trapped at the pyramid's base, trading irreplaceable hours for survival wages, while men who own the mines and factories accumulate fortunes without lifting tools. The architects of society enlisted every institution to cement this lie. Schools conditioned you to accept arbitrary authority and complete tedious tasks. Morality framed laziness as sin and overwork as virtue. Culture reduced your entire identity to economic utility. The first question strangers ask is what you do for work, not who you are. Here lies the trap's brilliance. You do not merely tolerate this arrangement, you celebrate it. You have been programmed to feel pride in your subjugation, wearing burnout-like medals from a war you do not realize you are losing. The exhausted worker feels virtuous, not exploited. He looks with contempt on those who refuse to grind themselves into dust, never questioning who benefits from his dedication. This creates the perfect control mechanism. A slave who knows his chains will eventually rebel, but a man who believes his servitude is nobility will police himself, even competing with fellow laborers to prove who can endure more exploitation. The mathematical reality is devastating. When you sell hours, you face permanent limitations. Only 24 exist daily, and flesh inevitably tires. Your income stops precisely where your physical capacity ends. Meanwhile, the system's owner faces no such constraint. His wealth operates independently of his presence, compounding while he sleeps, because it stems from ownership, not labor. You must commit psychological treason against everything you were taught. Stop viewing hard work as moral imperative and recognize it as strategic trap designed to consume your most precious resource, time. The universe rewards leverage, not effort. It rewards the architect, not the bricklayer. Begin viewing your energy as finite treasury. Every hour spent solely enriching another man's system represents gold plundered from your vault, leaving you destitute while building kingdoms you will never rule. The moment you strip away the romanticism of the grind, you begin seeing through the prince's eyes. The rulers of this world do not view labor as noble, they view it as commodity to be managed and extracted. They do not work for money, they orchestrate money and men to work for them. True power lies not in enduring suffering, but in systematically directing others' suffering toward profitable ends. Stop seeking approval from society that only applauds when you sacrifice your life force for its maintenance. The bleeding hands of laborers are not beautiful sacrifice, but tragic misallocation of human potential. You are playing a game where rules were written by your opponent, and you play with absolute devotion. This illusion survives because it flatters you, telling you that worth lies in struggle, not strategy, that virtue comes from suffering, not sovereignty. Meanwhile, those above quietly ensure you never learn another way existed. The hardest working people you know, where are they now? Tired, underpaid, wondering why promises never arrived. This is not coincidence. This is the system functioning exactly as designed, making you useful, never wealthy. There exists a devastating difference between those outcomes, and the gap between them is where your entire life is currently being spent. Observe the richest figures of any era and ask yourself this devastating question. Do you truly believe they became wealthy by working harder than the coal miner, the nurse pulling double shifts, or the farmer laboring from dawn until dusk? The answer reveals the most carefully guarded secret of power. Wealth has never followed effort. It follows strategic positioning within systems that capture value continuously, whether you are present or absent. Here lies the mathematical impossibility that destroys the hard work mythology. Your physical body represents finite capacity, 24 hours maximum, requiring sleep, vulnerable to illness, inevitably aging toward death. When your income depends entirely on your personal exertion, you face permanent limitations that no amount of motivation can overcome. Meanwhile, the wealthy operate through mechanisms that transcend human limitations entirely. Consider the profound difference between the bucket carrier and the aqueduct builder. Both men serve the same village, both interact with the same river. The bucket carrier works extraordinarily hard, his back breaking over decades of faithful service, sweating and straining to transport water one container at a time. The aqueduct builder works intensely for one concentrated period, then collects payment from every person who drinks water for the next century. Same river, same village, but only one built a system that works without him. This is the architecture of every fortune in human history. Wealth flows toward those who position themselves at choke points, the narrow passages through which value must travel. The toll bridge operator does not pave roads or breed horses. He simply identifies where all trade must pass, builds a gate, and extracts a fraction as the world's wealth flows by. You must stop trying to be the best worker in the mine and start seeking to own the railroad that transports the ore. The transformation begins with understanding leverage, the dark art of multiplying your will without multiplying your effort. When you control other people's time, you transcend the 24-hour limitation. You experience 1,000 hours of productivity between sunrise and sunset because you have orchestrated the labor of others. Financial leverage allows money itself to work tirelessly without sleep, holidays, or demands for raises. Every wealthy person built or acquired at least one of these mechanisms. Businesses that operate through trained employees and established processes, investments that compound. Through market forces, intellectual property that sells while you sleep, reputations that open doors before you knock. These systems generate income, influence, and opportunities independent of your daily presence. Now examine why this truth remains obscured. A society of system builders becomes ungovernable. If every intelligent worker understood that their labor primarily enriches system owners above them and simultaneously learned the mechanics of building their own systems, the entire labor pool would drain overnight. Therefore, education teaches skills that make you a valuable employee, never a dangerous competitor. You were taught mathematics to balance corporate ledgers, not calculate compound returns on your capital. You learned to write reports for managers, not create intellectual property. History became dates and names, never strategic patterns used by power accumulators. The devastating reality is that every moment spent trading time for wages represents a choice, the bucket over the aqueduct. While you earn and spend your hours, system owners simultaneously build mechanisms that compound, scale, and multiply. Your labor disappears into the past, unretrievable and unproductive beyond its immediate transaction. Their systems accumulate power and generate wealth continuously. The laborer experiences time as something to fill with productive activity and trade for compensation. Every unworked hour means lost income. Vacation becomes financial punishment. Illness equals economic catastrophe. The system owner experiences time as something that works for him continuously. His wealth does not pause when he pauses. This distinction transcends finance. It represents two fundamentally different relationships with existence. If one man rents himself to mechanisms he does not own, the other builds and controls mechanisms that serve his interests permanently. You must ruthlessly audit your daily actions. Every moment spent on tasks that could be delegated, automated, or eliminated reveals peasant thinking. Your ultimate goal is making your physical presence entirely irrelevant to income generation. You must orchestrate the symphony, not play the instruments. The moment you pick up the violin, you become just another employee of your own ambition. Stop focusing on value creation and start mastering value capture. The masses believe that pushing the boulder harder will eventually reach the summit. They do not realize the mountain itself is owned by someone who built a toll booth at the top, collecting fees from every exhausted soul who finally arrives. Your labor is a commodity, easily replaced and eternally undervalued. But your ability to construct and control systems of leverage represents the sole key to escaping perpetual servitude that masquerades as honorable duty. The greatest conquests in history were achieved not with armies, but through the systematic manipulation of human psychology. You do not need physical chains when you can. Forge mental ones so comfortable that prisoners defend their own captivity with passionate conviction. This represents the ultimate triumph of power, creating a peasant psychology so deeply embedded that the masses police themselves, ensuring they never threaten the established order. The fundamental divide between master and servant lies not in intelligence, talent, or capacity for effort. Walk through struggling neighborhoods and witness brilliant minds working with ferocious dedication. Enter the offices of the genuinely wealthy and observe ordinary intellect paired with extraordinary psychological frameworks. The separation is entirely mental before it becomes financial. You have been systematically conditioned from childhood through mechanisms disguised as education and morality. Every institution conspired to reshape how you interpret reality. You were rewarded for compliance, punished for independent thinking, trained to seek permission before acting, to wait for authority. Figures to validate ideas, to measure worth through grades assigned by others. This was not education, this was psychological programming designed to produce predictable, manageable, productive workers, never dangerous, independent thinkers, capable of building competing power structures. The peasant psychology operates through transaction and survival. It craves security above all else, desiring predictable wages and guaranteed pensions, the illusion of safety provided by masters who dictate hours and worth. When confronted with wealth, the peasant immediately rationalizes disparity through morality, comforting himself with delusions that poverty equals virtue and wealth equals corruption. This moral superiority becomes the pacifier handed to working classes, keeping them quiet while their pockets empty. Listen to how peasant minds speak about time. They sell it hourly and proudly announce weekly sacrifices, as though martyrdom were strategy. They say, "I picked up extra shifts, cannot. Take breaks, must keep grinding." Their identity fuses with labor. Without jobs, they feel worthless. This represents systematic conditioning, not natural instinct. The peasant psychology fears risk above all else. Certainty becomes its drug of choice. Fixed wages, even if small, feel safer than terrifying ownership responsibility. The thought of losing little paralyzes more than never gaining everything possible. So they remain stationary, calling paralysis stability while mocking those who dare gamble. Now examine prince psychology, an entirely different operating system, running beneath conscious thought. The prince perceives identical circumstances, but asks fundamentally different questions. Where peasants ask how to earn more, princes ask what to own. Where peasants seek to impress employers, princes make employers irrelevant. Where peasants want larger cages, princes dismantle cages entirely. The prince psychology is proactive by nature, manufacturing favorable conditions rather than waiting for them. It studies systems, identifies leverage points, positions strategically before circumstances demand action. Every setback provides intelligence rather than injustice to mourn. Every relationship gets evaluated for strategic value alongside personal connection. Every decision measures long-term positioning over immediate comfort. The prince refuses fairness because he understands fairness as concepts invented by the weak to constrain the strong. He seeks leverage, viewing time not as something traded for money, but as canvas for building control systems. Where peasants see jobs, princes see power architecture. Here lies the transformation's extraordinary difficulty. Peasant mindset feels virtuous, humble, grounded, relatable, morally clean. Prince mindset initially feels dangerous, presumptuous, selfish. Society engineered this deliberately. Men thinking like princes become ungovernable, unpredictable, potentially competitive with existing power structures. Therefore, prince thinking gets culturally framed as greed and moral corruption, ensuring decent people voluntarily suppress their most powerful instincts. Your identity becomes the prison. After decades defining yourself as hard worker, abandoning that identity feels catastrophic. Accepting that hard work was never the path invalidates your entire existence. This emotional investment in false identity locks millions of capable people in perpetual servitude, defending beliefs that imprison them with sincere conviction. The prince understands identity must serve strategy, not sentiment. He rebuilds self-concept around ownership, leverage, and power rather than effort, compliance, and approval. He stops measuring worth through sacrificed hours and begins measuring through controlled systems, accumulated assets, and wielded influence. Most devastatingly, peasant psychology destroys opportunity through timing mechanisms. When strategic windows open investment opportunities, business, possibilities, moments to claim territory, peasants spend windows deliberating, seeking permission, waiting for certainty that never arrives. Princes move decisively because fortune rewards prepared minds that act, not cautious minds waiting for perfect conditions. The transformation from peasant to prince psychology represents the singular most important work of your existence. Everything else flows naturally from this internal revolution. Without it, you can master every wealth-building technique available and still apply them with hesitation, self-sabotage, and unconscious retreat that peasant psychology inevitably produces. You are not poor because the world is unfair. You struggle not because opportunity is scarce. You are exactly where your current psychology positioned you, and you will remain there until you wage war against conditioning installed before you were old enough to resist. recognizing that the ultimate battleground is not the marketplace, but the internal landscape, where chains of servitude are forged, not of iron but of beliefs you were tricked into holding sacred. You were raised to believe the universe maintains a cosmic ledger, carefully recording your sacrifices and eventually dispensing proportional rewards. This beautiful lie represents the most sophisticated control mechanism ever devised, transforming exploitation into virtue, making slaves proud of their chains. While you wait patiently for justice that never arrives, others who understand the true mechanics of power quietly arrange themselves where wealth must flow. Observe the devastating pattern around you. Notice how many gentle, honest, hard-working people live perpetually on disaster's edge, always behind on bills, always consoling themselves with phrases like, "At least I'm doing the right thing." Now examine those who control the buildings, companies, and capital above them. Do you believe they ascended through patient virtue and moral purity? The answer reveals why moral sentiment functions as tranquilizer, keeping you still while ruthless minds arrange the board. This represents the great divergence between laborer and strategist. The laborer focuses entirely on execution, working harder, staying later, perfecting craft, waiting for the universe to recognize virtue and reward accordingly. He believes that turning the crank fast enough will eventually hand him the keys. The strategist focuses on positioning, understanding that being the hardest worker in a dying industry guarantees prestigious failure. He studies currents of power, capital, and influence, placing himself directly in wealth's path before crowds notice the movement. Strategic positioning begins with one act of treason against comfortable beliefs, seeing the world as it operates, not as you wish it functioned. Wealth does not flow toward the deserving, it flows toward the strategically positioned. Opportunity does not seek the hardest worker, it gravitates toward those who understand system, architecture, and place themselves at value concentration points. This is not cynicism, but observable, repeatable, historically consistent truth that every powerful figure understood while masses remained righteous. The trap of moral sentiment runs extraordinarily deep because it was installed with genuine good intentions by people who believed it themselves. Parents taught fairness because they wanted good children. Teachers rewarded compliance because they needed manageable classrooms. Religious institutions promised cosmic justice because people require hope to endure suffering. None were malicious. They were products of identical conditioning, passing forward beliefs that served social order magnificently while serving individual advancement almost never. The result is capable people paralyzed by moral sentiment precisely when strategic action is required. The opportunity appears, but taking it feels aggressive, presumptuous. The negotiation opens, but demanding full value feels greedy. The moment to claim territory arrives, but moving decisively feels ruthless. So they hesitate, qualify, soften, and wait for conditions that feel morally clean enough to act within. Meanwhile, those without this hesitation move, claim, and consolidate. Strategic positioning requires mastering choke points, positions where demand must flow through restricted supply. The man who owns the only bridge across the river needs neither virtue nor exceptional work ethic. He simply holds the position. Your objective is not becoming better at your job, but positioning yourself where unique advantages intersect with massive, unavoidable demand. This demands cold, clinical observation of the world, stripped of wishful thinking. You must learn to read systems the way generals read terrain before battle. Every industry has high ground positions from which maximum influence flows with minimum resistance. Most people never occupy these positions, not because they lack capability, but because they never studied the landscape strategically. They entered fields, worked hard, improved skills, and wondered why advancement felt arbitrary. It followed precise positioning logic they never learned to read. The strategist also masters asymmetric risk situations, where potential downside is strictly limited, but potential upside is theoretically infinite. The peasant psychology avoids all risk, preferring slow, guaranteed bleed of inflation over possibility of sudden loss. The gambler takes reckless risks, relying on hope rather than calculation. The strategist seeks asymmetry, failing fast, failing cheaply, and adjusting position before markets recognize errors. Begin asking different questions immediately. Not, am I good? But, am I indispensable? Not, do they like me? But do they need me? Not, am I treated fairly? But can they function without me or what I control? When the answer to that last question is yes, your bargaining power approaches zero, regardless of effort. Or, righteousness, your network represents positioning. Your reputation represents positioning. The problems you choose to solve represent positioning. Every strategic alliance, every carefully chosen association, every problem you solve for someone with genuine power, these are not social niceties, but architecture of influence that eventually generates wealth independent of hourly effort. Stop optimizing performance within systems and start evaluating whether those systems allow wealth to flow toward you or perpetually away regardless of performance. Moral sentiment without strategic intelligence is not virtue, it is expensive naivety that benefits those positioned above you enormously. The comfortable morality of patience, fairness, and faithful labor will earn you respect from people in identical circumstances and quiet pity from those who understand precisely why you remain where you are. Fortune favors the bold and prepared those who study battlefields before fighting begins, who position themselves on high ground before conflict demands it, who understand that most contests are determined before the first blow lands through superior positioning of one party over another. The choice between moral sentiment and strategic positioning is the choice between honorable servitude and dangerous freedom. The architecture of your imprisonment has been laid bare, stripped of every comfortable lie that kept you laboring faithfully within systems designed to consume you. You now understand the four pillars of this deception, the illusion of noble labor that transformed your exploitation into virtue, the mathematical reality that wealth follows systems and leverage rather than sweat, the psychological conditioning that programmed you to think like a peasant rather than a prince, and the moral sentiment that kept you waiting patiently for justice in a world that rewards only strategic positioning. These revelations converge into one devastating truth you have been defending. The very chains that bind you, taking pride in your exhaustion, while those above you quietly arrange themselves where your labor's value flows upward. The hardest working people on earth remain the poorest not by accident, but by design. Every institution conspired to keep you useful, never dangerous, productive, but never powerful. You now face the choice that separates the masses from the few who rule them. You can continue worshipping effort, trading irreplaceable hours for survival wages, and consoling yourself with the righteousness of your suffering. Or you can commit treason against everything you were taught, abandon the comfortable morality that kept you manageable, and begin thinking with the cold, calculated precision of those who built the systems you have been serving. The world does not reward virtue, it rewards leverage. It does not honor the hardest worker, it enriches the most strategically positioned. Fortune favors not the patient, but the prepared mind that acts decisively when opportunity presents itself. You possess the map that most will carry to their graves without ever seeing. The only question remaining is whether you will step off the wheel of perpetual servitude and finally begin building the empire you were always capable of commanding. Stop being useful to someone else's vision. Become the architect of your own.